Blueberry conducts physician-led support groups, helping people live healthier, happier lives, free from metabolic disease. And on our podcast, Blueberry with Dr. Lori Martis, we bring to you nutrition and lifestyle medicine experts and extraordinary guests to empower and inspire you with their knowledge and stories of plant-based lifestyle so that you can be your healthiest self.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm Dr. Lori Marvis, and today I'm excited to bring yet another exciting and transformational, inspirational story from Melissa Allen. How are you today?
Great, thank you.
Well, I'm excited to get into your story. I know that you had written an article for Forks Over Knives, and that's always exciting to see them share stories as well. But maybe we can go back. So tell me a little bit about your history and how things were going. You were like, okay, and then where things kind of went south, and then what you did to turn things around. We'll kind of go from there.
Sure. So it was definitely a long process. It was about a decade of just going through a lot of emotional turmoil, which everybody experiences, but sort of dealing with that in unhealthy ways. Maybe not always knowing that I was dealing with it unhealthy, but knowing that I could do better. And that led to a lot of unhealthy habits, unhealthy eating, self-medicating with drinking. I was a heavy smoker. I didn't do a lot of physical activity, which meant I spent a lot of time sedentary, which, as we know, that directly affects your mental health. I didn't know that then. And I spent a lot of years just sort of stuck there. And I read a book that was recommended by my sister called The Cheese Trap. And it completely changed my life. I thought, maybe I'll give this a try and see if eating, making healthier eating choices helps. And it did almost immediately. And then that became sort of a segue for me to make other healthy choices.
So I'm curious what the conversation was, because that's a book that I don't hear many people say is their first entry into eating a whole food plant-based diet. So I'm curious, what was the context around her recommending The Cheese Trap?
Well, I think she knew that I was obsessed with cheese. I mean, it was just kind of my go-to, my comfort food. Some people really like Taco Bell, or some people, go for sweet things. And for me, it was like, at the end of the day, if I, wanted a snack, or some days I would start my day eating like a whole thing of cottage cheese for breakfast, or, and in my head, I'm like, well, I could make worse choices, but I didn't realize how bad of a choice I was making and how that was affecting literally everything I did, starting my day off like that, and how much it affected my sleep patterns, all the things that changed for me when I stopped. And what really resonated with me in that book was how addictive that type of food can be. And knowing already, maybe not admitting it quite yet, but knowing already that I had some addiction issues, with things that I used to feel better, I thought, oh my gosh, am I also doing this with cheese? Is it possible that I'm addicted to this too? And, like I said, when I started making the decision to eliminate those things, it was just amazing how quickly things changed for me. And that book is, I'm sure you're familiar with it, but for those of you listening that aren't, it's written by doctors, and it has a lot of medical facts tied to it. There's not a lot of, well, I guess there are personal stories in it, but I was surprised too that it hit so hard. But there were so many things, that I didn't realize I was doing just by the food choices I was making. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheese is a hard one for a lot of people, especially women. I always tell people, before I switched to a plant-based diet 10 years ago, I was, cheese and I were in love. So it's But I think we're just raised that way, right? You're giving our kids like these little cheese sticks and we're
Yes.
presenting them with all these, cheesy commercials. And then there's the
Yep.
government. Don't get me started on the government and how they help support our
Yeah.
cheese addiction. But so great. So can you tell me just kind of your state of physical and mental health prior to reading the book? And then we can
Yeah.
kind of walk into your transition as you started eating healthier and employing healthier habits.
Yes. So at the time, I mean, looking back, everybody that goes through trauma or, deals with life, I think they realize once they're through it, like, wow, I didn't know how bad it was or how low it actually got.
Mm.
And for me, it was, I didn't have the mental, I wasn't healthy mentally enough to make good food choices. It was like I was doing what was easiest to get me through the day, where if I would have taken the initiative to start with that, it might have, I might have turned things around a little bit sooner. And I wish I would have had, somebody to give me that advice, but I was doing the best I could at the time. When things started to turn around for me, when I decided or realized, wow, I could probably make some better choices that would make it easier for me to do things like exercise or, give me more energy to meet different goals. I always thought, wow, I could, because when I was younger, I was an athlete, and then I went through this time where I wasn't. And I remember that always feeling good. And I just thought, I wonder how I could get back there. And almost immediately after I made the decision to start eating healthier, I had more energy. I was able to do more of the things that made me feel good, and not realizing that the food, the fuel, was the starting point. A lot of people think, okay, I have to quit smoking, I have to quit drinking, I need to exercise more. Those are huge things. Of course, you know that you have to do that. Nobody does those things thinking that they're healthy. But what I did is I took a different route to get to there. I started eating healthy, and then all of a sudden, all these other things became so much easier. And it was, it really, when I say it saved my life, it really did. I know that if I hadn't done that first, I wouldn't have been able to recognize those things and get those little lifts where I'm like, oh, I have energy to go for a walk at the end of the day, instead of just like, go right into sitting on the couch watching TV.
So prior, so it sounds like there was some mental struggles as well, which we can talk about that, because it's really interesting when you start feeding your body anti-inflammatory foods, the brain inflammation, mood improves, things like that. Certainly see that with many, many patients. But and physically, how were you feeling? Was there joint discomfort? Like, what were your actual symptoms that you were able to describe?
So again, I didn't know I was in pain.
Oh.
I didn't know that I could feel better. I just got used to it. I got used to the pain. I got used to not sleeping. I got used to how it felt to not sleep. I got used to, the constant headaches, or that drop in the midday where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't, I can barely keep my eyes open. I would, lose my breath getting the groceries out of the car, or, playing with my son, or just things that I just would compensate for, which I think a lot of people do that when they get to that point. They just, don't think that anything's wrong. I noticed as the weight started coming off, my knees didn't hurt. I didn't, constantly get out of bed and think, oh my gosh, I can't, having to sit on the bed for a minute to even get to the bathroom, or any of those things. It's like, I was bouncing out of bed. I was, doing things that I couldn't have done before. Moving furniture around. I remember thinking, wow, I never would have been able to do this before. I remember sitting with my son on the sidewalk and we were, we were just outside playing, and that would have been something that would have been comfortable for me, before I started
Yeah.
eating better.
So you had become so accustomed to not feeling well, you just considered that normal, like you had forgotten what it was like to be well, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Definitely.
Yeah, not an uncommon thing. And what's interesting is when you start eating these plant foods and these amazing nutrients, it's such a rapid change that people can actually take notice. Sometimes if you have a really slow improvement, people really struggle with, like, they forget how bad they felt. But what's beautiful about this is that it's just like, bam, you're like, oh, wow. Like you said, with your knees and getting out of bed and playing with your son. That's amazing. So can you tell us a little bit about like what ended up happening, like your weight loss? How much did you lose? And then where did you go from there with this newfound freedom?
So overall, I think the big chunk of weight in the beginning was right around 70 pounds. And that
Wow.
happened over like a year, maybe a little more. But and that's enough weight where it was happening regularly enough where I was seeing results weekly, not only with inches and being able to fit into clothes, but also just being able to move and do the things that make you feel good. So I think, I've lost a total of probably 80 to 90 pounds
Wow.
since I went plant-based, which was in 2018.
Great.
And then the majority of that was in the first year, and I've kind of maintained and, lost even a little more just with the ability to do things that I want to do. Running is my big thing that became easier and easier. In fact, when I first started, I couldn't run, but I would walk, and I would walk to the gym. I would, do as much of a workout as I could, walk home. I would make time to walk or run during my lunch breaks at work. And it occurred to me that those things could be easier if I gave up some of the other bad habits and, all the things that sort of fell in line when I realized this eating is really the starting point for me of, and what you put in your body. We say it all the time, but it's true. What you put in is what you get out. And that was so clear for me right away.
So I'm curious how your sleep improved, because I feel like if you can get food and sleep right, everything else falls into place.
Yeah, it'll
like
be easy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me, what was your sleep like and how is your sleep now?
So uninterrupted is a word I would use to describe it now, which that's everybody's goal, I guess, right? Is to just have those great night's sleep. I didn't know what a good night's sleep was. And part of that was becoming a mom. Part of that was, using alcohol most nights to fall asleep, or some other, sleeping pill. I had no idea the amount of energy and how good I would feel if I actually slept through the night. And I'm talking like 6 hours, not even 8. Now I sleep easily 8 hours. I'm very normal. I go to bed at the same time. I wake up at the same time. So, most nights, and that's easier to do when you put yourself on a schedule and make it a priority. And I know I struggled with sleep from early on, just not understanding how important it was. So when I started eating plant-based food, it was almost like my body would calm down easier at night. And I didn't have the indigestion or just the discomfort of, things that would give you like a huge high with, sugar or whatever it is. The same way you feel if you go through the fast food line and you get that immediate, sensation of this feels good. And then it was like at the end of the day, all of that would come crashing down, and it would be really hard to sleep. And also just knowing that I made bad choices. I mean, nobody wants to feel that way. But now it's easier. It feels good. It feels good to lay down. It feels good to let my body relax. And I feel like the sleep is, it's worth it. It was like before I was just struggling to just calm down and rest. And now it's like I'm actually sleeping. It's quality.
Yeah. So quality and quantity.
Yeah.
So, and now you spoke of your son. How many kids do you have?
Just one.
Just one.
Just
How
the
old?
one. He is 14.
Nice. Is he joining you on your journey of plant-based eating?
So he does his best. And so the one movie I really got him to sit and watch was the Game Changers, because he is an athlete. And the thing that I explained to him is that if he wants to be better, he needs to make different choices than everybody. And I am so proud when I see him in between his games. He plays basketball. He is always encouraging his teammates to, not head out to McDonald's or get the quick fix. I try really hard to make food for them to snack on between games, and just healthy choices, a lot of peanut butter, a lot of protein shakes, a lot of plant-based protein bars. So he still indulges sometimes in foods that are not totally vegan, but he really understands the importance of it. And it's so cool to hear him talk about it. And obviously he watched me benefit from it. So
gotcha.
Yep.
No, I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
So 10 years ago when we went on a plant-based diet, my kids were 13, 15, and 18. And they're all plant-based now. They're, mid to late 20s, and my husband as well. But it's a transition. But one of the first things, especially my youngest, they were all athletes, but the youngest, he would play, we've lived in a small town in Western Colorado, and he was playing varsity baseball in ninth grade, but they would do back-to-back games because you're a small town.
Yes.
You
The double headers.
travel. It's exactly right. One's home and then the next one's home. So it's like and so Gabe would go from playing either shortstop, catcher, or pitching and not have any issues. And they're like, what is he doing for recovery? I'm like, look at what he's putting in his body on a day-to-day basis, guys. And that was really fun to see the parents and the coaches take notes and really start employing some of those things. But it was really fun. But I totally get the athletes. When Gabriel, when did Game Changers come out? I think Gabe was 18 then. And we were still in here in Colorado, and I watched it with Gabe. He had actually hit a tree snowboarding.
Oh no.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I was lucky he's alive, but he ended up having surgery and 2 plates and like 22 screws. So I came and stayed. We were living in Washington State at the time, but I came and stayed with him in Boulder, where we live now. But he was in college. He just finished at CU, University of Colorado. And what was interesting, so they were doing a Game Changer. So I made him sit with me. I'd already seen kind of the rough cut already, but I made him sit there, and I knew this part of it. There was that part about the urologist and the young athletes. And I'm a physician. I mean, I've been pretty blunt with the kids about different things, and they're talking about, sexual function and stuff. I was like, hey, Gabe, there you go. And he's like, oh my goodness, Mom. So that was actually one of my favorite harassment moments. But you're exactly right. We got to speak to them, to things that are important to them, your performance, their future. The climate change is a big one for my daughter. She's a physician now as well. She's in her family medicine residency in Boston, but that's one of the main things that was really important for her. And so it's just really fun to see what resonates with these kids, especially, but yours is going to be such a great thing because you're giving him the gift of health and he doesn't even know it yet. That's great. That's phenomenal.
The other thing that really made him consider it was recovery time, because he gets banged around a lot, and he's just a rough kid. I mean, And
Oh, yeah,
had
boys are
told him,
something special.
yeah, right. I know. It's like, oh,
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh
sometimes he
yeah.
looks like a rag doll out there and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. But
Yeah.
I have explained over and over again to him that if he's going to do that and risk the possibility of getting injured, this is the best thing he can do in
Mhm.
order to ensure a quick recovery,
Mhm.
at least set the stage for that.
Yeah. So, when Gabe hurt his leg and he had that surgery, he recovered very quickly. And the orthopedic surgeon, the physical therapist, like, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing. I was like, well, I'll tell you what I'm doing. So, so,
Yeah.
but that was one thing. But also, with your training, right? Exactly what you're describing. If you have faster recovery, you can train harder and sooner. And that's where, the skill set will start increasing. And that's really, really important for athletes. So I love that. He's already understanding his own body. And when I have parents who have smaller children, like 4 to 6, 7, and what I did when I transitioned the family overnight, I said, when we go out, you guys eat what you want. But when we're at home, this is what you're getting. I'm not your short order cook. I'm a busy mom. I'm a physician, and you're going to get what you got.
Yeah.
It may or may not taste good. I'm going to try really hard to make it taste good. But what was funny was, and our diet didn't change drastically, but it certainly removed some things. But what was funny was you start seeing over a year, they stopped ordering the chicken. They started ordering the tofu. And I'm like, yes, finally.
Working. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
know,
really
it's
fun.
amazing. It
It
is.
is. It's a lot of fun. And then when you start seeing them recruiting friends, that's
Oh,
even better.
agreed.
Or they're like, oh, mom, can you make this for me and my school
Yes.
function? I'm like, oh, yes, I will.
Yeah, I know it.
That's excellent. So now tell us a little bit about, you said you were running, and I know in your article you spoke to running some half marathons and stuff. So tell us all about that, because that's really fun, because I don't think people understand just the freedom and the excitement of
Yeah.
being able to move your body the way you want to.
I didn't know that running was going to end up helping me more mentally than it ever did
Mhm.
physically. And that's huge for me to
Mhm.
maintain mental health, whole being wellness, particularly just understanding the connection between moving my body, breathing, taking that time away from my phone, away from my email, just like connecting with myself. And who knew? It was all I had to do was get some good shoes and I could do it anywhere. I mean, talking about my son and his sports, he does a lot of travel. I can work out
Yep.
anywhere between games. As long as I have my shoes, I just go, put them on and go. And so my goal when I very first started was, wow, it'd be great to do, a 5K. So I did that. And then I made a goal to do a half marathon. And I gave myself quite a bit of time to prepare for it. But the first one I did, I ran the whole thing. I followed a training program, and the way that made me feel to complete it was, I think no matter what I accomplish, that's going to be one of the biggest things that I've set out to do. And, I was still a little overweight at the time. So it was hard. It was difficult.
Mhm.
It still would be hard. Running a half marathon it's far.
Mhm.
But that just sort of lit a fire to
Mhm.
not only maintain a relationship with running, but not get hurt so that I could still run,
Mhm.
and that is why diet is very important, sleep, all those
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
Last year I trained for the Detroit Marathon, and I got to about mile 20 and I hurt my back. I
Mm.
recovered quickly, but I missed it, which
Yeah.
is okay.
Yeah.
That's still something that I, aspire to do. And I think it's very possible. It's very time consuming, obviously, to train, but
Yes.
I stepped back a little and realized that the gift is the training, is being able to do all these things and, wake up and have it no problem, go run 7 miles, or, whatever my training run was for that day, and to be able to complete it
Mhm.
with, you know, time to spare. So
Yeah, absolutely. No,
yeah.
the marathon training is very time consuming, extremely. But there's something about mile 20. Don't feel bad. Mile 20 to 22 will get a lot of people in a marathon. I've been a runner for a long time as military, and I love the running and hiking and all that good stuff. But yeah, absolutely, the just that you can look back and think 4 years ago you wouldn't have even been able to run around the block, but now you're like
Yeah.
20 miles. Are you kidding?
Right.
This is great, right?
Yeah.
So phenomenal.
Yeah.
Um, I always get asked for people who have had amazing improvements and done these. I was like, what do you eat in a day? Because if I don't ask, I will get comments. So please tell us
Yeah.
what you eat in a day.
No, I'd love to. So definitely I start out with coffee. I mean, that's just my thing. That's still one of my vices, probably always will be. I
Mhm.
try to keep it to like 2 cups.
And that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I do avocado toast almost every morning, and I have incorporated other vegetables into that too, because it's just an easy way to get the veggies in. So I'll, put chopped peppers or tomatoes on top, and then the everything but the bagel seasoning. Everybody loves
Oh,
that. It's
that's so
delicious.
delish.
Yeah, it makes everything so good. Um, so that's usually my first meal. I eat probably, depending on how far I'm running, I'll probably eat between 5 and 6 times a day. Um, so sometimes I'll split that up. Like I'll do a bagel and I'll eat one half, you know, at some point mid-morning, and then again early afternoon. I do a lot of beans, a lot of rice,
Mhm.
as many veggies as I can, because I found out after eating this way for a while, it really does matter what you fill yourself with. And
Mhm.
I hate that feeling of, and mainly because it's a trigger for me, that uncomfortable feeling of just eating too much. And
Mm.
I noticed that that would happen sometimes if I ate too many beans or too much pasta or too much rice. It doesn't
Mhm.
ever happen for me if I eat vegetables. So
Mm.
I try to do that first. And
Mm.
there's not a vegetable I don't like. I didn't always love them, but I have grown to. And
Mhm.
so anything I can, chop up, put into a salad, anything like that. I do a lot of tortillas, stuffed with beans or vegetables, or, lots of hummus would be a
Mhm.
base that I would eat a lot of. Um, and that's really it. I mean, that's I eat vegetables, and I eat starches, and
Mhm.
grains, and I'll do sometimes a protein shake if that's what I have time for. There's a couple that I like that, you can either put almond milk in or even just water.
Mhm.
Um, and then I do love the plant-based ice creams. Oh, they're
Mhm.
so good. There's so many. There are so many. People are like, how do you eat ice cream? I'm like, just all you have to do is look. Especially here where I live, it's like there's
Mm.
so many options. I feel thankful for that. But definitely
Mm.
into the coconut ice cream.
That's fantastic. So you found a way of eating that sustains your health, your energy, and you don't feel deprived. It's simple. It's cheaper for sure. Um, Excellent. And then as far as any advice, I like to wrap things up, to really use your experience and share that with the audience. So besides your story, which can be inspirational, what advice do you like to give people, or where do you see people struggling? How would you like to give them a helping hand?
So I think people give up too quickly. We
Mm.
don't give each other or ourselves enough grace. And it's hard. It's hard to be well, but it's really hard to not be well.
Mm.
And that is just that's going to take time for you to recognize or realize. And, just because you fall off and, make an unhealthy food choice, or you skip your workout, or that, it's okay. That just
Mhm.
keep moving. That's all you have to do, is just keep trying, and it gets so much easier, and then it just sort of becomes second nature. And
Mhm.
I try really hard to help people understand that it starts mentally. You have to
Mm.
start there, and then everything else just kind of falls into place. And it's
I am
not easy
curious.
every day, but
I love that you said that. So, because some people think that action moves to thoughts, right? So you have to start moving and then you start having the thoughts. But I'm in agreement with you. I think you have to have the thinking and the thoughts in place, which will inform the actual action. I like how you said that. Why do you feel like that it took the thoughts first and then came the action? I'm just curious.
well, I mean, I say it because that's what happened for me.
Mm,
I
mhm.
would picture myself crossing the finish line, and this was
Awesome.
before I was even running. I mean, this is when I was just like, I just would think about that. I and I would think about, the people that were there supporting me, and
Mm,
the people that I was making proud, and more importantly, making myself proud. I mean, that's huge, right? I mean, that's what
mhm,
moves us.
mhm,
And I I know that once you become mentally healthier,
mhm,
that it makes it easier to make good choices. Because why wouldn't you? I mean,
mhm,
you do what feels good. It feels good to have positive thoughts and think good things. So
mhm.
that turns into other things, and gives you sort of the drive and the energy and the motivation, and you know giving yourself grace. That's a huge thing too,
Mhm.
because you can't expect everything to happen overnight.
What was that again? I'm sorry, you cut out just a little bit.
You can't
It-
expect everything to happen overnight.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. You're exactly right. And I love that you basically envisioned where you were going and then your mind's like, oh, is that where we want to go? So let's go. So it's just
Yeah,
your brain was pulling you into the direction that you wanted to go. So
yeah,
I love that. And I think it's very powerful. Our brains are so powerful. Our thoughts are
yeah,
so powerful.
yeah,
So yeah, that's wonderful. Well, Melissa, thank you again for taking your time with us today. And I'm really excited to share your story with the audience. And I'm
thank you.
really hopeful that we'll have a lot of positive feedback because I think it will really encourage people. I like how you had a big mental health piece of that because I think it's really under spoke about. We speak so much about the physical health, but we really ignore the mental health, and it really is hand in hand. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that video. Before you go though, please hit the subscribe button and the alert button so you'll be notified whenever we release any new videos. We upload a new episode of Blueberry with Dr. Lori Marbus on Friday. Now, if you'd rather listen to the podcast, you can find us on all the major platforms, such as iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and even Spotify. If you're looking for amazing resources to help you start a plant-based diet, sustain a plant-based diet, exercise, recipes, or anything wellness, we got you covered there too. Because at Blueberry, we actually provide physician-led support groups to help people live happier, healthier lives and free from metabolic disease. Don't forget to check out our website at blueberry.health, and thanks again for watching.